We're the Hidradenitis Suppurativa. If you've got HS, you'll want to meet us. It's not your fault, put the shame to a halt. HS divas know how to have a ball. The Hidradenitis Suppurativas. Put the shame to a halt, cause it's not your fault.
Hi everybody, my name is Brinley. Welcome to the Hidradenitis Supurativas podcast, sponsored by UCB.
Hey guys, welcome to Hidradenitis Suppurativas. I am here with Sid and Bryn, and today we will be discussing what is HS, the ifs, ands, buts, the facts. Brinley doesn't know everything, but she
knows a lot.
knows almost everything. Okay, so a lot of this will be me and Sid asking Brinley questions. This is actually very authentic too. Me and Sid, of course, know a lot about HS now, but it's very intricate and confusing and complex. And so you will see a lot of us asking Brinley, which is really authentic because as many times as she told us, we still don't know the answers. But first thing first, what is HS?
So HS stands for Hidradenitis Suppurativa. It's said many different ways, and that's fine. It's a very, very difficult disease to say, and it's even harder to live with, as most of us know. So it's an auto-inflammatory condition. So our body basically overreacts to any kind of stimuli that is happening. So a lot of times if there's too much friction or if you're overheated or something like that, our body is basically like sending everyone over to try and attack whatever that is happening in the body. So that's what can create the flares, and those can come up from many different kinds of triggers, which we'll talk about later too. But the main thing to know is that it consists of boil-like abscesses, and we typically don't like to use the word boils synonymous with HS because they're not actually boils. Boils is a completely different skin condition, but we do know from social listening that boils is usually how people will determine or talk about their abscesses until they know exactly that they're dealing with HS. And then we try to move the vernacular over to the word abscess as opposed to a boil because that's a different thing.
But to be clear, we can get boils, correct? If you have
can
HS,
still get
you
boils.
can still have boils,
yes.
But we prefer the term abscess, correct?
Well, our what you would call a boil is not a boil. It's an abscess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can have both of those skin conditions, but most people will say that they have chronic boils. Typically, that means that they have HS.
Yeah.
So if you have boil-like abscesses one or more times in 6 months, then the answer is 90% yes, you have HS.
Okay.
And it likes to impact your underarms, under your breasts. For men, it's on the back of the neck, the groin, the inner thighs. But those are its favorite places. But that's not the only place that it can impact. So you can get it anywhere on the body that there's a hair follicle. So that means anywhere except the palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, and your lips. So we have a lot of men who have it on their back. We have women who have it on their back. It can happen on your legs. It can happen on your arms. It can happen on your face.
Yeah.
So although you'll see in most anything, if you look up HS, for people who don't know, they'll say that it's a sweat gland disease, which it was thought to be a sweat gland disease in the past, but it is not a sweat gland disease. And they used to say, and they still do, that it can only really bother where skin is rubbing skin. And that's not the case either. So the hard part is there's been so much change for HS that has not been kept up with. So that's what we're here to try to figure out and to correct all of this stuff. So information dense episode coming right now.
And throughout this, we'll try to really emphasize what HS is and what it's not.
Yeah.
So another question, acne and versa, is this correct to use as well?
It's a name that it used to be called, not so much anymore, but we do hear it called that occasionally. Yeah.
And it's still appropriate?
Yeah, I mean, I would go with Hidradenitis Suppurativa first and foremost if possible, yeah.
But if you guys have heard that term as well, then synonymous, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then HS, so with those boil-like abscesses, sometimes, as we know, they can drain, other times they don't. It's the body is reacting to the hair follicle inside. And so instead of just basically opening up and letting, like it would with a pimple, like letting all of that bacteria and all of the red and white blood cells and everything that are kind of building up behind it, instead of just opening and letting them out, it likes to keep them in. And that's what happens underneath the skin.
Okay.
So,
Now, is it okay to pop them?
no, you should leave them alone, let them run their course. The crazy part about it is for people who don't have, like my younger daughters don't necessarily drain. Sometimes they will, but if they don't drain, they still leave a scar.
Yeah.
Just like if you had an open draining wound. So
But
people don't understand that's the inflammation underneath the skin. That's how bad the inflammation is, that it's actually scarring your skin. Without even coming up to the surface to actually create
and I see that on my
something.
inner thighs
Mhm.
all the time. Yeah.
But once it starts draining, we should be trying to get it out, right?
You want to just let it do its thing. You're going to want to keep it
Ah.
clean. That's the most important part.
Stop popping, Mahala.
Yeah. Don't
Tell on yourself without
touching.
telling on yourself.
No.
I'm immediately like already failed. I should know better, and I'm already not doing better. Okay.
And we know that it's really, really hard
Yeah.
to not do that. I mean,
Yeah.
I know how hard it is.
Especially them ones that look like blackheads,
Yes.
y'all. Like, it's just a blackhead is what you feel.
They're
And then it's
HS's
like, it's
besties.
not. Yeah, it's so deep. And I just know, because full transparency, I was a picker. I still am working on not
Yeah.
being a picker.
Yeah.
I know better than to pick out the big angry ones. I don't want no beef with y'all.
Yeah.
But the little blackheads, I'm like, oh, I could take care of this. But really, we should not be
But
doing
I think
that.
something very important to note, you guys, which we've talked about our Beautify HS project, which you're going to hear a lot too. HS looks so different
Yeah.
on everyone. Even me and Sid are obviously both melanated, but your HS scars and looks so different than the way mine does versus on Brenly as
Mhm.
well. And I think that's really important to know, that it's not like
One size fits all.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
even it's very interesting when you were saying like they look like blackheads. I don't think I've really had any HS that's looked like a blackhead for me.
So
Oh, wow.
blackheads they're actually called DEPs,
Okay.
double-ended pseudocombs, I think is what it is. And it's like a little blackhead, but it actually has two heads.
Okay.
And so you're not supposed to pick at those either, which like Sid said is really, really freaking hard not
Yeah.
to do because they just call your name and they taunt you.
Yeah.
But it's really good to just leave those alone, because sometimes you can, with picking at them,
You're
you can actually
irritating it
create
more.
Yeah.
a flare where you were not intending to have a flare.
But you learn something new every day, because I
Yeah.
haven't seen that, Sid.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying that's even shocking to me, because I guess my ignorance, I would have assumed that was maybe
Okay.
acne versus
And
HS.
That's usually the first sign of HS is that you end up
That's
with
how it
those
started for me.
DEPs.
Yeah, on my
Yes.
inner thighs, on my groin, it started with
Yeah.
those, and
Wow.
I would pick. And so that's a part of, I feel like, the shame for so many people, because they don't know better. If you knew better, you would do better, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you start picking, and like you said, you're causing, not you are not the problem,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
your body thinks, and so you're tricking it into getting more irritated because we're picking at it and frustrating our skin more than it's already frustrated. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do my best.
And that actually brings up a really good point when you just said that, because HS is not our fault. We're doing nothing
Yeah.
to keep this happening. Sometimes you can identify triggers that may bring your HS and into a flare or something like that. But HS is not our fault.
Yeah.
This is an autoinflammatory condition that we have. You're not doing anything to keep this happening to you. This isn't because of something you've done. This isn't because when you were 4 years old, you played in the mud and forgot to wash off. It has nothing to do with any of that.
I was thinking about how last episode you had said, like, of course, there was a point where your mom was like almost holding you responsible, and I think so many of us as an adolescent had that, because I remember my sisters, I had 2 older sisters, it was like, you don't shower. Like, it was like, you clearly, and I remember showering 10 times a day.
Yeah.
Like, why the hell?
Excessive.
And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, with some of the symptoms that come with HS, I promise you guys, we would fix
shower.
it if
Yeah.
we could.
Yeah.
And we would fix it if we could. If these things worked, we would do it.
Yeah.
If it was a cleanliness, we would all
Yeah. We
up
would-
it up. Okay,
Yeah.
we've all tried, All right, so I have a few questions for you.
'Kay.
Probably a never-ending list.
Okay.
What is the difference between autoinflammatory, which is what HS is, and autoimmune, which HS isn't yet or isn't at all?
Well, it isn't yet
Okay.
anyway. So HS is considered autoinflammatory, not autoimmune. Autoimmune is where your body is actually actively attacking itself. And HS does not meet the markers that are set forth right now for being an autoimmune condition. So it's an autoinflammatory condition. So basically our body is overreacting. So like the 13-year-old girl.
Yeah, I'm
who's
like, oh,
just,
damn.
constantly just like, bah, bah. So everything that it perceives as an irritation, it basically is just overreacting just all the time. So that's why a lot of times when we take medications like a biologic medication that is considered an immunosuppressant or not necessarily an immunosuppressant, but that will maybe lower your immune system. For us, it actually brings us down to normal as opposed to being low.
Compromising our immune system
Right.
even more.
So
That makes sense.
we're up here and we need to be down here in the middle. And that's what it does for us. Regular people start in the middle and it lowers that for them. But because of the autoinflammatory issues that we have, we're already kind of at a really high level and it normalizes us.
Okay.
So there's a misconception that, once you're on a biologic medication like that, that you are now immunocompromised and all of that. But
And I
for
think it was a genuine scare through COVID and even
Yes.
post-COVID because they're like, how dare I compromise my immune system more than it's
Right.
compromised? And then
And for us,
Yeah.
it actually just brings us to a normal level so that our body is not overreacting as much.
So is our immune system compromised?
No, our immune system is actually overactive.
we
Okay.
doing too much.
Yeah, we doing too
basically.
much.
We doing too
Yeah,
much.
calm
Okay.
down. Just take a little rest. Yeah, it's just overactive.
Okay. And with you saying that too, I have traditionally heard like hormones play a big role in HS. I think I've heard that's why women tend to have it. That's why women tend to get it during their period. Is this true? Is this false? Is there research? Do we know?
So there definitely is something hormone related for most women. It doesn't mean it's related for every woman. So that's one of the things I think with HS that we need to set out at the beginning, which we're at the beginning now. It's not the same for everyone. Sometimes it isn't the same for two people.
Right.
So what triggers one person may not trigger another and vice versa. They do think that hormones do play a role in HS, and you can tell by the number of women who go on birth control for HS to try to help regulate that hormonal imbalance. So yes, I mean, hormones are usually a trigger for women, especially. And you notice if you get your period and you get flares around the time of your period or right before, then most likely hormones are a trigger for you, and that would be something to talk to your derm.
Okay, so
or
you
your
would consider that a
OB-GYN
trigger because I know mine is hormonal. I have my worst HS
Yeah.
before my period starts. So it is safe to say like hormones trigger.
Hormones
my
can
HS.
trigger. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think in that case, it's a lot of times when we say trigger, we mean that it's something like we're personally doing that is causing our HS or causing a reaction from our HS. But in this case, it's just your normal body doing its thing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
causing a reaction.
Awesome. And so is research proven that like hormones is an issue, or is that just a trigger per person?
It's a per person
Okay.
thing. There's also issues with like trans male to female or female to male that they can have issue when they're introducing hormones as well.
Okay.
So those are, special cases that you would definitely want to be seeing your dermatologist about if your hormones are triggering HS when you're going through that kind of the transition. Yeah.
And other triggers can be food. Weather can even trigger, right?
Yes. Humidity,
all this. These are all considered.
Genes,
Yes.
sitting,
genetics.
mechanical
stress. Yeah. So there's the basic triggers that we know about, like food is a trigger for some people. It isn't a trigger for other people. For me, it's not a trigger. So when people are like, well, just stop eating potatoes. It's like, it doesn't matter if I eat potatoes or not because it's not a trigger for me. That's not what activates my HS or causes flares for me.
Is there something that you did personally to know that like food just wasn't your issue? Did you do like an elimination diet or
So
anything
I
of that nature?
didn't personally do an elimination diet, but that is one of the best ways to go about it and figure it out. So for me, I knew that food wasn't a trigger for me because after I had my armpits excised and then I wasn't getting any more flares there. So typically if it was food that was doing it for me, I would have ended up having more flares in that area. And the same thing has held true for each of the surgeries that I've had. I haven't changed my eating style or my eating habits through those, and I'm still not getting very many flares. So
she is blessed, y'all.
Yeah,
She is blessed.
she is. She knows. And then there's also things. We'll go back to the eating thing. But then there's also triggers that can be for people that you may not notice. Like, so stress is a really big trigger for a lot of people. You'll notice if you are stressing that you're flaring more. Another thing that people totally do not think about is going on vacation. So it's also not necessarily just stress, but any kind of a hormone release like excitement or adrenaline can also create flares for people too. So you'll notice if you're getting like ready to go on a trip and you're super excited, you can get a flare.
I
or
swear
while you're on
I
a
flare
vacation.
before any trip. That is so funny. But I'm thinking because I see the aftermath, like when I am like, I just went to the Caribbean, but I was very excited. The second I got there, I was flaring. I thought it was the humidity, which it may have been too.
Totally could have been a combo.
I never knew that.
Yeah. Right. So because adrenaline is a form of a hormone, it's a hormone. So it's the same thing is happening.
Okay. And that can be so inconsiderate when you're like
the audacity
you're
of my
excited
mother
for your
effing
wedding
body
or something, you know, and you're like flaring the day, you know, and you're like, let me put on my hydrowear.
That's why my mind is really going. I'm like, the audacity body. Like, really? Could you look out for me a little bit? Because when you just said that, I'm not kidding you guys, fireworks. Because I know like before my period, but every time I go on a trip, I kid you not, I'm flaring.
Yep.
And I'm just associating, okay, you're going to different things. But now when I'm looking back, I'm like, I was flaring right before I even left.
Every trip.
No, every trip. I'm like, and you've really fucked up all my trips, HS. I'm not going to hold you. You have messed up every trip of mine.
Don't get excited about it.
Right. I'm not even excited to
and
go.
then don't get sad that you're not excited about it. Because then that's going to flare. Yeah. So basically just stone faced all the time.
I've never even thought about adrenaline being a thing because I think we're like, that's a good thing to be excited, but shit.
Yeah.
Stay depressed.
Yeah.
I'm actually like, maybe my flare-ups are at least when I'm depressed.
When I'm crying.
No, literally, I'm kind of having a moment here. I'm like, really, when I'm in bed crying, my skin's chilling.
Yeah.
The tears are helping.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, that's very good to know. And then what role do we know genetics do or don't play in HS?
Right now, they're saying it's a 33% familial link or genetics that play a role in HS. So 33% chance that you would have a child with HS or without HS. So that's kind of where they sit now, but there's a lot more genetic testing and sequencing being done to figure out, like, is that accurate?
That's
is that not accurate?
Very interesting to even be able to know that. I mean, you hear other people talk about it in relations to like cancer and stuff, but that's just really cool to know a 33% chance that your child can maybe have it. So it's interesting.
So I'm also wondering, like, both of my parents do not have HS, have never, or to my knowledge, have never had any symptoms similar to mine. Most of my aunts haven't, but then I see my cousins with very similar things. So would it be safe to assume that maybe a grandparent had it of mine? Or
it could have been. This is part of the whole shame thing, though, is like people don't talk about it. So, you know, for instance, Hannah, my stepdaughter, her biological mom has HS, but she didn't know that until Hannah started talking about her HS. Hannah didn't also know that her grandfather had HS and has had it for a really long time and has it on the back of his neck.
And I feel like men definitely have a different pressure when it comes to the shame and the isolation and keeping it to themselves, because that makes them not macho, and you know, God forbid they don't go to work because they have a flare. I think they definitely have a greater pressure to keep it to themselves.
Undeniably. Yes. Yeah, I think, and that's one of the interesting things. The more that you start talking about it, the more that you encourage other people to talk about it, and the more you realize, like,
I was never alone.
You are not alone. It's 1 in 10 people on average is thought to have HS. 1 in 10 people, you guys. Okay, so picture yourself at the mall.
I mean,
okay, picture yourself on an airplane. Right? You guys both just
there was somebody on that plane with HS too.
There's probably at least, if not 1, 2, or 3 other people on that plane with HS.
Wow. And what about the link between HS and the Black community? Is it true it's more dominant, or is it not true?
So I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done on that too, because some of the studies that came out were single center studies. And so obviously if you have a single center in Detroit, you may have a different outcome than you would if you had a single center study in Florida or in LA or whatever that looks like. So I think that there's a lot more that needs to be done on that. HS Connect is trying to do we're trying to do our own little study about figuring out, you know, age, sex, race, all of that stuff too, because the interesting piece of it is when we're doing surveys, 95% of what we get as a result is white middle-aged women.
And that's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
So when everybody else in the community, and what the community is telling us is that it's predominantly Black, but we're only getting like the white middle-aged women, it's really hard to like reconcile those two things.
And I believe so much of that comes from the trust issues that the Black community has, not even just with like medical professionals, but just with everybody, you know, like you can't trust it. You know, it's almost like normalized in our community to be like, oh, well, that's like, you don't need to go to that dirt fancy doctor. Like, you don't need to do this fancy thing. But like, I just need to be better for myself. And so I am going to take this moment to ask everybody, like, if you see a survey that is not even like just HS, if you have something going on with you, you have to make yourself a part of the solution. Like, be the change that you want to see in the world. And if there's a survey shared on my page, like, please know I took the survey too. And there's nothing that's so special about me that's not special about you. So take the survey, help us make the impact, because we want to see truer numbers.
Yes.
Like, there's no way that there's only middle-aged white women with HS, right? We know that.
Right.
I can see that from my comment section.
Yeah,
so just do your due diligence to yourself as well, and make sure that if you see a study that pertains to you, to take the 5 to 10 minutes, you guys, to just do it.
Yeah, and we work on really making them as succinct and short as possible.
She does.
We
if
do
there's
not
a survey
want,
too long, she's like, I'm not releasing this to my community.
We do not want to make something that is elongated and that people have to spend more time than is deserved on it. Like, and we also work with, if we're working with someone else on a survey, we also ask them the same thing. Like, no, you've got to cut this down, because survey fatigue is a real thing. So we do really try to monitor that too, to make sure. But yes, please take the surveys, because we can't count you unless you put your hand up.
Yeah. And I think a big community, a great place to start, and this is not sponsored, but a great place to start is Rare Patient Voice. Like, if you want to have a little piece of your skin in the game as well, you're not going to get approved for every survey. I will say that they do have channels that they go through to make sure that you're the right person that they're looking for, but they do, for the most part, compensate you for your time. And that's how I started my advocacy. So many people are like, well, how do you do what you do? Like, I put myself out there one day and the next thing you know, it was a domino effect. And the same thing can be very true for you. So take the time to do the surveys.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate too, but I think HS, we just don't have enough research or anything.
Yeah.
So even I understand how hard this is, but like, I know on my platform, I have a share your story and I let you upload pictures. So even if you don't want to say who you are, if you're brave enough to take pictures, because I think that's been one of my biggest struggles with HS is I think people see, let's say they see my platform and my HS, but their HS doesn't look the same.
Yes.
They automatically assume they don't have HS. And maybe they do, maybe they don't. But my point is, like, we even need that as well. So I love that you guys are saying surveys, but if you get comfortable, submit anonymously to these places too and upload pictures. Like, we just need more awareness on it, more information, more photo. We need more everything.
Well, and it's really difficult because in a lot of the textbooks, there's very limited numbers of photos of stages 1, 2, 3, and on different colored skins on the entire Fitzpatrick scale of skin color. So I know that's, HS Connect has an image library that also has photos of like, of surgeries, of HS on different areas of the body, what can come out of our abscesses, because sometimes there's some weird little things that come out of those.
Some colors that come out.
The smell. Oh my God.
So we have pictures of some of that stuff on there to show people, like, this is what it can look like. But yes, I mean, you can always send those to contact at hsconnect.org too. And we're happy to put them up there. But yes, we do.
And they can be anonymous too.
Yes.
Like, I think that's, we do want to express this as a safe space, not even to sound corny, but like, we don't expect you to be at our level of where you're necessarily sharing, but that helps. So you can do anonymous if you're comfortable. You don't have to be anonymous, but that helps,
Yeah,
that
definitely.
helps a lot.
And so many of y'all do love to share your story. So we're just asking you to share it in the right place. Not saying I do not love the influx of DMs. Y'all make my heart melt. But I just want to go through the proper channels and give you guys the awareness and the recognition that you deserve if you do choose to not be anonymous and you do want to have your name out there and you're ready. Because I was just telling Brinley yesterday too, like when I see you guys in public and you're like, oh my gosh, like I have HS too. I'm so proud of you because you're taking your power back in that moment. And I'm so thankful to be a part of it. And everybody's not going to, like I said, advocate on our scale, but even a before and after picture, even this is what my HS looked like, 2 years ago, or this is what it's looking like now and it's getting better, or maybe it's not.
Yeah.
You're like in the thick of a really tough season. We do want to hear it and we do want to see it and we appreciate all of your help.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, again, it doesn't matter if you have a stage 1 or stage 3, they all suck. It all hurts. None of it is fun. But do keep in mind like that it makes you a stronger person, like your HS. And I can say this because I feel like I know that about myself now, but for the longest time I did not feel like that. But it does make you special.
Yeah.
It's something special and unique about yourself. And I think that the acceptance piece of it takes a really long time, but it's worth it to get there. And some of that honestly just starts with sharing your story.
This is so, I guess, off topic, but same thing. I was going to say, I'm not telling everyone, like, just hop out and share your story or photos, but my confidence went up so much more when I laid it on the table.
Yeah.
I put it on my personal platform for the first time, and I can't express a weight was actually lifted off my shoulder, and it took me years to get there, to be at a place where I could be like this, but the second I did, my confidence, because now it's like, what I have. Even with dating, it was like, okay, I'm going on a date, and I'm like, if you're on my Instagram, you already know what I have, like it was actually a huge pressure off. There's something so beautiful about like releasing it too, because it's so shameful. So
that's what I felt like. That was the bulk of what the Beautify HS project did for me. Like seeing, I thought before that project, my butt cheeks were disgusting and like, I have a nice booty, but I could never appreciate it. I could never appreciate it because I knew it was under the jeans. I knew it was under the leggings, but like being a part of that project and like for somebody that might have been like, oh girl, all you did was tape some flowers to your booty. But like, girl, it was the perspective switch for me. And now it helped me in so many different seasons of life. I have more confidence, like you said, on the internet. There's nothing that people can say to me that can like alter the way I feel about myself because I took a little bit of power back in that moment. Not to mention my relationship with my husband has been so much better, like just from gaining my confidence back from those photos. So yeah.
No, me and you had a beautiful moment in the car yesterday. We were talking about HS on our breasts, just talking about it. Sid just pops out her breasts to show me, and I was like, okay, confidence is there for me. And I mean, I didn't care, but I was like, no, but it actually, even that, I'm not saying go pop out your breast, but it actually helped because instead of her telling me, she showed me, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and it actually educated me to know like that. So I don't know if that
Please,
was
Mahala's wife, don't get mad at me.
no, she doesn't care about that. No, but even that, like those visuals are so important. So if you do have the confidence and the ability to show what you're comfortable showing with, please always do. We're not asking for private parts, but but I mean, it
pics.
was save them. But no, it does help. And once again, the Beautify HS project, we were able to do a lot of that, which has been
it's amazing how it starts as one small thing. And like I was really impressed at the Beautify HS project too, because the other piece of it was how comfortable everyone felt. Like there was a dressing room or a bathroom like down the hall, and I thought, oh God, this is gonna take forever. Everyone's gonna want to go in the stupid bathroom to change. Like nobody did. Everybody was just like came in and just dropped trow and like was totally comfortable because you look just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Maybe it looks a little bit different on you, but you've got the same thing she's got.
It helped so much that the photographer had HS and the videographer had HS and like everybody had HS. So
Brinley's been doing very good about trying to hire. Just so you guys know, too, a little bit more about our platforms. Brinley is very much within the best of her ability, only hiring people with HS, or maybe with something similar, I could say, which was very helpful to in comfortability. So I just want you guys to know, like, when we're doing a lot of these projects, the team is us. And I think that was helpful. I know as the photographer, when I was like, you guys, I got HS too. I remember, and even one person was like, wait, you do? I was like, yes. Yeah. And, I'm showing them like, even, like, and it's just, I don't know, it's helpful, but you've been doing really good at that.
Yeah.
And Mahala just like, she just kind of honestly set the tone, even though she was the photographer and she wasn't in the project per se. Like, I saw just by walking in the room, I'm like, well, dang, this girl got her crop top on. Like, she's got her tank top
Yeah.
on.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's not hiding nothing. Like, and then it was just amazing. Yeah.
I'm always trying to be as nudist as possible. It's a problem, okay? It is a problem, y'all. I'm working on it. But no, yeah. But I yeah. Yeah, it was just
No, the
beautiful.
whole tone that was set there, just
Yeah.
it was amazing, and
Yeah.
it was everything I could have dreamed of and more. It
Yeah.
just totally exceeded all expectations.
Yeah, it was
For
amazing.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is HS not? Quick phrases. What is it not?
HS is not a sexually transmitted disease. HS is not due to weight and smoking, although they may play a role in HS. They could make it worse. In some cases, it can make it better. But they are not, your HS is not due to
Solely based on them.
solely based on your weight or smoking habit. HS is not your fault. And it is not
Rare.
it's not rare. No. It's definitely not rare. It's just
Can we
rarely
give
talked
somebody
about.
HS
No, HS is not transmissible. HS
by any means, right?
No.
If I go rub up on
Nope.
you, I cannot give you HS.
Nope.
Correct.
Nope, definitely not. And then it also there's a genetic component. We already talked about that, and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's a condition that you have, and it does not discriminate. It affects every age, gender, sex, race, blood type,
Tax bracket.
yeah,
Mhm.
everything. So it does not discriminate. And again, it can affect every area on your body with the exception of the palms of your hands, soles of your feet, and your lips. So just to keep that in mind, because you'll often hear it talked about in the most common places, which is 100%, that's where it is most commonly found. But we see a lot of people getting misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all because they have it in what would be considered quote unquote atypical places.
Mhm.
But it's really not atypical. It's more common than you would think.
And
So
do we have any other links? Like me personally, I know a lot of people who have HS have PCOS. Is this like, do we have research that backs that if you're diabetic, you may have, like, there's a lot of I don't know, I'm asking.
yeah, there's concomitant conditions, which means that they run kind of in tandem with. So PCOS is very common. Type 2 diabetes is common.
Okay.
We're also seeing, like, we just did a survey on HS Connect, and I
And
haven't had
hyperhidrosis.
time to like actually read through the results yet. But we've had almost 100 people, I think, come and complete the hyperhidrosis LS and HS survey that we did.
Okay.
So we were asking for people who had 2 or more of those conditions to come take a quick, literally like 3-minute survey about what's going on and if they have multiple conditions. And it looks like there's something to be explored further about hyperhidrosis and HS. So excessive sweating for people who don't know what hyperhidrosis is.
Okay.
That could be contributing.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's good to know because I think that's a lot of things I'm seeing too. Like people with
PCOS
one
is huge.
No,
yeah.
but one condition, and then they're saying I get a random boil, and I'm like, it might be worth checking.
Mhm.
Especially, like I said, my thing was PCOS. I see that a lot, so it's encouraged. I'm assuming if you have some of these other things to possibly look into that as well.
And I think that goes back to just, even though you may have HS and you have all of the shame and the guilt and the anxiety, kind of just learning how to move past that. And if you do feel like you have something outside of HS, like, please go get it checked out. Please try not to neglect your care because you're like, well, I already got HS. Can't nothing be worse than that. Like, until one day you find out that there's something that was worse than that and you didn't take care of it at the time that it was necessary. So I think just learning to listen to your body and making sure that you're going to the doctor regularly.
And we're going to get into that a lot more too. I still don't have healthcare, you guys. I know a lot of us are not alone. I'm huge on that as well because a big thing with proper healthcare is affordability, is insurance. We'll make sure to talk on all these and do what we can. But at the end of the day, if you have HS, do your best to see someone. I guess that's the only solution you have.
Yeah, there's treatment options for it. There is no cure. There's a lot of treatments coming down the pipeline. So that's something to be really positive about.
Yeah.
But those treatments do require all of us to participate, just like we were talking about in the surveys. You have to participate in clinical trials and studies and things that are coming out because the only way that these companies will continue to try to solve our problem is if we're there to tell them if it's working or not. And they require us to do that, in order for us to move HS forward and to keep it going in the direction it is right now.
And
So,
look at
oh, sorry. But yeah, before we wrap this up, I wanted to just ask your opinion, genuinely, as an HS patient, what you feel about clinical trials and HS.
So I know that there's a huge fear of clinical trials, and I can understand why. I myself have never participated in a clinical trial. I think for multiple reasons. One, I wasn't knowledgeable enough about what they entailed. I also never thought to look. I always thought someone else will do that. Oh,
Yeah.
well, somebody else they'll take care
Sign
of that.
up,
Someone
yeah.
else will do that. And I think that now that I'm like learning and understanding it from a different perspective now and working with some of the industry partners on this, I think that we need to work on clearing up what those questions and misconceptions and misunderstandings are about clinical trials so that we can help put people at ease, including myself.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's this big moving thing that nobody really knows or understands.
We're like Grey's Anatomy. They're going to give me the placebo.
Right. Exactly. Meredith Grey is going to go behind.
Yeah.
She's going to switch it out.
She's going to root for me.
Yeah. Dr. Weber's wife's going to get it. I mean, the whole meal.
Oh my God.
So
that's
I do
hilarious.
think there's so much and it's not necessarily a misunderstanding. It's just we don't know.
We
just don't know.
Yeah.
So our goal at HS Connect is to work on trying to break down that misunderstanding. And I'm going through this process at the same time of better understanding what does this look like, what's expected. And I'm also working with the industry partners on making sure that that's really clear.
Yeah.
To the patients who you're asking to be involved in this. What is required of me? What is my role in this? What is expected of me? Is there compensation for this? How,
Best case scenario, worst case scenario.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're also working on getting patients more involved much earlier in the process so that we can help create the study design to best suit the HS patient. So what is most accommodating for us, as opposed to in the past, I think there's been a different perspective of well, it's pharma and then we just have to do what they say.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's a huge shift in the patient community and in pharma in general and medical in general is switching to the patient perspective and incorporating that a lot more earlier in the process.
Absolutely.
So that we can say, okay, but does this have to be done in your clinic or can we send a nurse to their home to do it?
Yeah.
Because these are people who are trying to live normal lives and carry on about their day and take care of their family. They don't have necessarily time to go to a visit once a week. So does it have to be an in-person? Could it be a video visit? Could we, let's think outside the box on how this could be done to best accommodate, the people that you need to participate.
Well, what was really beautiful for me too, Sid, is not having insurance and not having the best access to that. I went to Wake Forest and they were doing a program with up and coming doctors. I guess
Residents?
they weren't residents yet. They were, I don't know.
Maybe medical students still at
Yeah,
that
medical.
point.
But what they did, and this was helpful for me, is you were kind of teaching them. So it was a teaching hospital, I guess, a thing. And so there were still doctors supervising, but the best healthcare and treatment I got for my HS was there because it was free, because they weren't real doctors. It was completely free. And I was able to go in, and of course there were still doctors supervising, but basically it was 5 med students came in and the doctor was all right, what do you know about HS? He was all right, you have 10 minutes to go look it up and learn. And they had to come back and tell me about HS.
Wow.
And then I had to tell them what I did and did not know. It was silly in some sense, but for me, it was an option. And I can assume clinical trials would be a way to maybe get some type of medical attention too if you don't have insurance or the money to do it, I'm assuming.
Well,
right?
And a lot of times, they don't necessarily, they'll do exams that pertain to what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So they may do a full nodule count on you because their primary endpoint for that clinical trial may be to try to reduce the number of active lesions that you have.
Yeah.
So, when you first go to the clinical trial location, that they would probably do a full physical exam of your HS to count those nodules and those lesions so that they can then, determine at the endpoint if there's fewer of them or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll figure out, what that looks like from there. But they definitely... it's a great way to go and to help further the study I mean, they're not putting things out there that are dangerous for people. They've been tested before they're going out to this point.
Yeah.
And it also, there's a couple different phases of clinical trials. So, you know, a lot of times now they're doing open-ended trials at the end. I can't remember what they called them specifically. But basically, regardless of whether you were given the placebo or not, at a certain point, you get both of them.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody gets the actual
Yeah.
medication to then see if there's a difference. So it requires everybody to participate in order for us to keep going so that we can have
I love that.
better endpoints.
I have gained a new perspective on clinical trials and just honestly HS treatment, even since I've known you, because you're this ball of knowledge when it comes to HS. So I think that it's just super important that everybody starts realizing that you can advocate for yourself, and don't, because somebody said, or you're, I think especially in the Black community, we have this lack of trust in the medical community as well. And we're like, I ain't your guinea pig, but it's like, I'd rather take a chance to see if something's maybe going to help me instead of care about what my parents or what somebody might think of me, because you don't have to live with HS. This is my gentle giant and my struggle that I walk with every single day. And so there's nothing wrong with doing what you feel is best for you, your journey, and your treatment with HS. So thank you for touching on that. I think that was very powerful.
Yeah, and it's hard too, I think, because a lot of times we just hear like the stories of when clinical trials don't work for someone. We never hear the stories where they actually do.
Change somebody's
I mean, they're
life.
obviously working for people, or medicine would not be coming to market.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people that have been helped. And we have one gentleman, Mario, who I know has gone through a clinical trial, and he had a great experience. The medication worked for him. There also, a lot of times, if the medication does work for you and isn't available yet, like on to the public, because it's not FDA approved, but it may be FDA approved for a different treatment, that they'll work with you on trying to get that medication so you can continue that. Because you did have success with it in the clinical trial. So there's a lot of things that actually do happen behind the scenes. And again, I'm learning that too as I'm going through this process about what they do, what they can and can't do. So I think just passing that information on and truly having the conversation of what concerns the Black community about it so that we can work through those issues. And it's not going to come from working through those is not going to come from a one-time conversation.
Right. It takes evolving.
Right. But
you're gonna get sick of us hyping you up, but I really do have that bond with you because of that too. Because one of my favorite things since I met you, though, is one of the first things I heard about HS was Black people got it. Like it was more of a Black people disease, and still to this day, you don't just put that out there. Like we've talked a lot about misinformation, and we're going to keep talking about how important that is, but you don't even let that be a topic. And I don't think you even understand how much that helps the Black people around you, because that's what we've heard. Like, and kind of like when we were talking about the smoking thing, like you hear this, I feel like as a Black woman, I'll say for me as a Black woman, and it's just shut down. Like, oh, you're Black, you have HS. That's the issue. Like, you want me to not be Black to get rid of this disease? Like, what? What do you want?
Let me go bleach my skin.
But so I think like you do. I mean, I will give you your props with that. Like, I've really appreciated that with you. Like, you're like, okay, yeah, we've seen this, but my experience hasn't been that, and we don't have proof. And
even if it's not her experience, like we make sure. Like we just had a call the other day with a different nonprofit who does want to serve people with HS who are Black. And it's like, she's not trying to be everything for everyone. She's very much so like, okay, I know that maybe the Black community won't be so receptive to hear this from me versus hearing this from somebody who looks like them and has the same colors as them. And so she has no problem. She doesn't want to be everything for everybody. And she's like, okay, well, I don't think that the message is going to come across from me, but let me partner with so-and-so over here to make sure that they feel heard, they feel validated, and they know that like, it's not just them and it's not all on them, but here is a community of people who look like you. This is what they're doing to make it better. This is like another resource for you, and you can still chill with HS Connect. So like, her heart is so pure, you guys. She is like my angel of HS. Like if I'm flaring, she's there. Like she's checking on me and my HS, and she like just had surgery. She is an actual angel to the HS community, and that is not us here, like because she's sitting in front of us, but because we genuinely want you guys to know.
I promise, she ain't paying us right now. We ain't having her up for nothing. But
I may
we
have
just want you to know.
$2.50 in my wallet.
She's our little HS encyclopedia.
It's like any compliment. Look, I was trying to get money now. No, but also once again, we can't express like we guys need you guys commenting, engaging with us too, because we need to hear that feedback. Because even take race out of it, we are going to make sure to incorporate men because we as women cannot relate to the man's experience with HS. We just can't, and it's not our job to do so. It's like we don't know, so we need the feedback. We need as much as you guys can give us because this disease doesn't have much to work with.
Right?
Yeah,
we ain't working with much. So
yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode. See you then.
Hey guys, it's your girl Mahala. Thanks for tuning in to Hidradenitis Suppurativa podcast, and thanks for sponsoring UCB.
We're the Hidradenitis Supurativas. If you've got HS, you'll want to meet us. It's not your fault. Put the shame to a halt. HS divas know how to have a ball. The Hidradenitis Suppurativas. Put the shame to a halt.